Athora, jungle planet with tall canopy trees. Buildings barely hide their presence underneath the vegetation. The camera zooms in and we see a large structure rising above the harsh jungle, almost in competition with nature. Waterfalls cascade down from this round, castle-like structure. Inside this castle, on a dark night, a boy sleeps. The festivities of Discovery Day have long since tired him out, even though much of the celebration continues. In the distance, the faint crackling of fireworks can be heard. It does very little to disturb the young prince. The door to the room opens, and a figure hastily rushes in. His movements may be quick, but his steps are light and quiet. He kneels down beside the bed and places a hand upon the boy's forehead in an attempt to gently stir him awake. "Come now, we have to go." The boy slowly awakens. The smell of sulfur and ozone and other minerals that make up firecrackers reaches his nose. Another one booms. This one is louder. The celebration is ramping up. What is it? Let me sleep. I'm tired." The boy attempts to lay back down, but Dr. Amit Rao pulls him back up and off of the bed. This alarms him. "Listen to me, Djon." The use of his name is even more alarming. Very few people use it, and only for certain circumstances. The first is when his father uses it. The Djon knows he is in trouble then. The second is when there is danger. All of the Djon's training snaps to full attention. He does not know of the situation, but his eyes already dart around the room for trouble he knows not of. He allows Dr. Rao to continue. "Listen, we need to leave the palace. You are not safe here." Dr. Rao motions over to the balcony door. Through the curtains, there is a faint red glow, a flash, and then the sound of fireworks. No, it is different. Still loud and booming, but its auditory composition is different. Lower, more bass. Djon pulls away and slowly walks to the curtain, his eyes fixed on the thin gap between the two curtains. Dr. Rao makes no motion to stop him. He needs to let the boy see this. He needs to let him see the severity of what is happening. Djon reaches out for one of the curtains and pulls it aside. Now that he sees it, the smell takes on a new form. In the distance, he sees fire everywhere. The trees are burning. The city is burning. He does not cry out. His training does not allow him to. Never let those around you prey upon the weakness of shock and fear. He turns around and follows Dr. Rao to the door. "Who? Why?" Djon asks as they quickly make their way down the hall. The full-length windows display the same scenery all around. Fire. There is a flash off in the distance as something bright falls into the canopy beyond. Ships. An invasion. Dr. Rao pauses a moment as they near the end of the hall. "Your father has been betrayed, Djon. Listen, your mother." He turns to face Djon. His hands rest upon his shoulders. This wasn't going to be easy for the boy to hear. They both turn towards the door at the end of the hall. Then, there's a bright flash and heat. Darkness. He is surrounded by darkness. No longer does he feel the humid warm night he grew up knowing. This air, it is dry and hot. He stirs, looking for something, anything, as his eyes slowly adjust. There is someone else there with him. "Steady, boy." A hand presses on his chest, gently pushing him back. Hunter recognizes the voice, but it has aged into something coarse, like graying hair. "What happened?" Hunter asks. His eyes finally adjust to the darkness, and he realizes that the weight of his armor is no longer there. He may as well be naked without it. "The raiders brought you in. Looks like they beat you pretty bad." This time Hunter does sit up, and he feels the bruising of his ribs and the soreness of his muscles. "Why are you here?" Dr. Rao is quiet for a moment before answering. "The medical profession is a rarity these days." "That's not what I mean. Someone out there is looking for you. Why?" Another moment of silence, and then a deep sigh. I have gotten careless in my old age. I have traveled from system to system, doing the best I can to help those in need of medical attention. Galbatrox has caught wind of my travels. I'm sorry, Djon. If he knows that I am alive, then it only stands to reason that he suspects that you are still alive. The Raiders, their technology is lacking, but I fear they may have alerted the Zonar. Hunter stands up, a slow endeavor, but one in which he uses to test his muscles and their capableness. Very well. First, we need to find a way out of here.
So I wanted to take the time before we actually get to rolling the dice and playing to go over some of the terms that I've come up with this introduction that I've prepared for you guys. The first is Athora. Now, Athora is the actual home planet that Djon comes from, and this is also where the Doctor also comes from as well, and his name is Dr. Amit Rao. Next is Zonar. Now, the Zonar are a race of beings that kind of prize strength above all else. If I had to make a direct comparison, it would be to the Netflix's Voltron's Galra, how they are kind of militaristic in a way, and they're led by an emperor who happens to be named Galbatrox. He is the leader of the Zonar and also the one who conquered Athora. Those are the three terms that I wanted to go over because I did go and plan things out a little bit between sessions, mainly because when you start a session, you actually have access to some session moves. And so when you begin a session, you roll a D100 and you can consult the chart. And I didn't do that this time, but I elected to go ahead and do a flashback because it's what made the most sense in this situation. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Now let's actually get to rolling the dice and playing. It goes without saying, Djon is not in a very good spot right now. He has been beaten, he's bruised all over, and he's in a cell with Dr. Amit Rao, the person he was tasked with finding. This also happens to be someone that he is very familiar with. This is the doctor who rescued him when he was a boy from Athora. Needless to say, there is a bit of relief, but also confusion, as we've heard in their dialogue. Now, the first thing that we need to do is figure out a way to escape. How is Djon going to get from this cell to freedom? And actually, I think the first step along the way is to get back his equipment, his armor and his knife, which is very valuable to him, as well as securing some other weapons for him to use. Because aside from the knife, he doesn't have anything. So, where can we go from here? Now, when you take a look at all the moves, there really isn't a set escape from cell move. Instead, we need to find a move that kind of fits what we're trying to do within the narrative, and then find some mechanics to help us achieve that goal. So, when we're thinking about it narratively speaking, how are they going to get out? Well, it kind of would make some sense, and I got this idea from Metal Gear Solid, by the way. Either Djon or Dr. Amit Rao would fake some sort of a health condition, and the other would call for help. A guard would come in, bash him over the head, and bada bing, bada boom, now you are free. We could give that a try, and actually I think that's the route that I'm going to go ahead and take right at this moment, because I don't think it would be feasible for us to pick a lock outside. Now, remember, the location that we're in is dark, and this was from the prompt that I had when we kind of created this place, and it's also hot. Now, in the prompt, it said that it was going to be cold, but since we're on a desert world, I went ahead and reversed that, and it is dry heat, a very persistent dry heat. So just remember those things as we kind of play along here. Let's say that since Dr. Amit Rao is the more valuable to the raiders that it is he who will actually fake the health condition. And that would leave Djon to actually call for help and set up this trap. So I think it only stands to reason that we're going to use the move Secure an Advantage to kind of set this trap up. So when you assess a situation, make preparations, or attempt to gain leverage, envision your action and roll. And we are going to be using Shadow because this is Deception, Stealth, or Trickery. It's just the way that it's going to work out because our Shadow is at +1. So we're going to really see if we can make something happen here. And this is pretty much, for better or for worse, all about the luck for now. So let's see what we get. So it looks like we have ourselves a weak hit. So we can choose one. Take +2 momentum or add +1 to the next move, not a progress move. And since we're going to be using Enter the Fray, that might be good. But honestly, I think I kind of want to go ahead and take the +2 momentum because our momentum is very low. We're at a -4. Our health is not doing too well, and neither is our spirit. So we're going to go ahead and bump up our momentum to a -2. And we're going to go ahead and enter the fray. So Dr. Amit Rao is kind of like on the other side of the door while Djon is pounding on the door, yelling out for help, that there's something wrong with the other prisoner that's in the room with him. And that's when, well, let's see, we got a weak hit. Let's say that there's one raider who actually walks in. And now we're going to enter the fray. Now, when we enter the fray, since we're using some sort of deception, we're laying a trap, we are also going to roll with +Shadow. So we're going to see how well this goes. First, we do need to go ahead and name our event here. This is going to be Escape the Cell. And since there's just the one raider and we have Dr. Amit and Djon, we're going to call this a troublesome. So let's go ahead and roll and see what happens. Okay. So we actually get ourselves a weak hit with 5 on our dice. I think that's 4 and 6 on the challenge dice right there. So pretty sweet. It's an all right. We're gonna say that we could either take +2 momentum or we're in control, and those are both very useful for us because we really want to start getting the momentum going. But at the same time, I really want to end this combat as quickly as possible, and to do that, it would be in our best interest if we were actually in control. So I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and stay in control. We're gonna obtain control. All right, so the raider walks in, Djon is ready for him, and he is going to go ahead and strike. Now, since we are doing this in close quarters, we are rolling +Iron, which is +2. So let's go ahead and roll and see what we get. Now we are in control, so let's see if we can stay. Oh boy. Our 6 definitely our 8 definitely beats that 5 and that 2. So we get to mark progress twice, which I believe is going to bump us up to a 6. For troublesome, we do mark 3 full progress boxes. And so what I'm envisioning is that, the raider turns to Djon while Dr. Amit Rao just comes up behind him and tries to hold him down, and Djon is just wailing on this raider, getting in some strong hits, and we remain in control. So we're going to go ahead and strike yet again, see if we can get some more progress. Dr. Amit is definitely doing a pretty good job of being the distraction here, helping us out. So let's go ahead and roll again and see what we can get. This one is going to be a weak hit with that 6. So on a weak hit, mark progress twice, but you expose yourself to danger. You are in a bad spot. And this will actually fill up all of the progress boxes. We are in a bad spot, so the raider manages to brush off Dr. Amit Rao off of him, and he's turned over to Djon to square up and fight, although he is definitely not looking too good. But we are going to try to take decisive action. Djon has kind of squared himself up. You know, he does the whole Henry Cavill with his fist, and well, let's see what happens. We have 10 on our progress, and that is a complete and strong utter hit. So we prevail, take 1 momentum, and if any objectives remain and the fight continues, you are in control. This fight is done. He cocks his fist there, but instead of going for the punch, he just does a drop kick. You know, the whole illusion, I'm gonna go up top, no, I'm going on bottom, I'm gonna play dirty. He takes him out with his knees, and the guy is done. So combat is over. The 2 men are breathing heavily. Djon is breathing heavily because he's bruised all over. This was quite a bit of a task for him, being injured as he is. So a couple things did come out of that combat. We got some momentum back. We're feeling pretty good. Let's keep things going. He checks the corner. He rounds the corner, make sure that there's nobody going down the hall. That was just the one raider who was probably passing by. Maybe he was just set there to keep watch over them. Don't know, we don't care. But what we are going to do, we are going to check the raider for weapons. And so I think I'm going to go ahead and leave this as a 75% chance of there being some sort of a weapon on the raider. So let's see what we have. We have a 94%. So there is some sort of a weapon on him. So I'm thinking that he's going to have some sort of a crude gun of some sort. What if, well, let's see, what would they have? Would they have pistols? Well, that would be kind of easily acceptable. So let's make another oracle. The top 50% will be some sort of like an automatic rifle. The lower 50% would be some sort of a pistol. This doesn't really have any bearings on mechanics or anything, but this is basically style at this point. And so we have an 11. So this is going to be some sort of a crude raider pistol that Djon is going to take. And I am going to say that this is kind of like a really old looking, it's disheveled, it's not in its pristine condition. And so there could be some faults in that of itself. Okay. So they've managed to leave the cell, and now we need to actually go ahead and find his equipment. And just for the sake of not having to really think about the map of the area, we're going to say that there is a spot in this hallway. This could be like the dungeon type area where his equipment is being kept. And so after a few minutes, he is going to don his armor, so we do get that back, and his knife. The crude pistol that we just obtained from the raider is ours. So we do have ranged capabilities whenever we initiate combat. So that's actually really good for us. So let's talk about actually exploring. So we're trying to escape from this area. I think we can say that is going to be the thing that is up on our docket. So I've already gone ahead and made a progress tracker called Escape Base. It is going to be a formidable rank because, remember, there are still raiders residing inside of this base that we need to actually escape from. And there's a big raider boss somewhere as well who can really make our day not so good. So we are going to go ahead and undertake an expedition. So let us get our dice, and how are we going to do this? We are trying to stay under the radar, and unfortunately that means we are doing this with plus shadow. Not our best one, if I'm being honest. So let's see what we can get here. All right, this is not going to be so good for us. So since we got a miss, we are waylaid by a crisis, or we meet some sort of a hardship at our next location. I'm actually going to go ahead and roll to see what our next derelict is going to be, or what our next zone is going to be. And so we need our D100. So let's see, what are we going to get? What can we find? Well, that was a weird way of rolling that. That is going to be a 90, which is some sort of production. Okay. So we're going into some sort of production area. So we need our D100 again to see what kind of an area we're going into. This is a 3, which is an airlock or staging area. So an airlock to me makes it seem like we're going outside. Okay, so that could also prove beneficial because now we found a way to escape. Okay, but of course the hardship is going to be that it is locked. There's something preventing us from being able to open it. So what can we do in order to quote unquote escape? So let's try to secure an advantage. We're going to do this with wits because we're trying to look around and see what we can find in the area. So we're actually going to we are going to roll with plus wits as Djon and Dr. Rao kind of look around to see what they can find that could prove helpful in this situation. All right, so we managed to beat one of those. So we got a weak hit. Do we want the +2 momentum, or do we want to take +1 on our next move? So I think what really makes the most sense is that they're going to find some sort of a tool to where they can possibly, get all the rust off of the airlock or whatever is holding it closed. So we're going to take +1 to our next move, which means I think we're going to be making a face danger roll since we're trying to get out. We're trying to be sneaky about this. So let's say that we did find a tool that we're physically going to have to use in order to get through the airlock, maybe some sort of a crowbar or something like that. Think futuristic crowbar, I guess. Maybe it's got lasers or something. Anyways, we have this crowbar type tool. We're going to try to go ahead and use our strength to kind of really pry it open. So we're going to be rolling with plus iron for this roll. And unfortunately, that is going to be a miss. Let's say that we actually succeeded momentarily. So on a miss, you fail, or a momentary success is undermined by a dire turn of events. So let's say that we actually did manage to get through the door. And I'm envisioning that there's going to be some sort of a sandstorm that's coming in. It's not quite here just yet, but it is very close. In fact, I'm kind of really wanting to make some sort of a clock for us to count down for. Clocks are fun. They help us keep track of time and stuff. And so we're going to do a little scene challenge here since we're going to be using a progress clock. Now, I kind of really wish that the quick reference book had the scene challenges because that would have been really helpful. But it is on page 239 for those of you who are following at home. So we are essentially using, I think I'm just going to keep the same challenge that we're in and just start the clock here because we haven't really made any progress. So we have a 4-segment progress clock, and so this gives us 4 actions to use before this sandstorm effectively hits the area. And so I think as Djon opens up this door, he is met with just high winds and some sand. It's very clear that off in the distance there's a sandstorm coming in. Like you see all of those clouds of sand that are just slowly coming in, like the Mummy when he does the whole face inside of the sandstorm coming at you. Although there's no face here, but I mean, still kind of a cool imagery there. This will, of course, be a formidable challenge for us, so only 1 segment per success. So what do we need to do here? Because there's only 2 things that we can do. We can either face danger or we can secure an advantage. I think what he's going to do as he kind of takes this quick look around, he is going to try to secure some sort of advantage. He's looking for a way out. He's looking for the motor pool, basically. He's looking for the area where these raiders keep their vehicles. Because if you remember at the very beginning when he actually found this base, he kind of crashed his own vehicle into the base, into one of the raiders' cars. So that's actually coming up to bite us in the butt now. So we are going to be rolling with wits because we're observing. So let's see what we can make happen with this roll. With wits, we do manage to beat that 2. So this is a weak hit for us. I think what we're going to have to do is go ahead and take that +1 to our next roll because we need to get out of here as quickly as possible. And so Djon is looking around, looking for the motor pool, and he spots it off in the distance. He can run towards it. He signals to Amit of where they are going next. And so they have to be very quick because that sandstorm is coming in. So that's one of our progress clocks filled in. There's only 3 more actions. And so he starts to run across, but the winds, they are very heavy, so this is going to be a face the danger roll. Against the high winds, I think it kind of makes sense that he is enduring this wind. So he is going to be using his strength to kind of get through. So let's roll with plus iron. And that is the type of a roll that I want to see. That is a very, well, it's a strong hit, but it's also a critical hit, so something unexpected happens. So what this ultimately means is that we get to mark progress twice instead of once on the strong hit, which is actually just exactly what we needed, because I was actually afraid that we had wasted our first progress turn trying to secure some advantage. So I'm really glad this paid off in the end. So that is progress clock number 2 filled in as he rushes towards this motor pool. Okay, so now he's at the motor pool. He has found a vehicle. Now we do need to face something. So let's envision what we're going to find. And actually, as I think about it, kind of going back to our previous error of getting rid of one of our vehicles, I think that the raiders are going to be a little bit more careful about their vehicles this time around. So I'm kind of envisioning that, 1 or 2 mooks are out there trying to secure their vehicles, because that's a precious commodity out here in the desert. And so they're trying to get it secured and protected. And so as Djon and Dr. Amit Rao kind of rush into the motor pool area, they find a couple of raiders that are just trying to fix or secure the vehicles. And so we're going to face danger. We are trying to, we're going to definitely go for speed here. We want to take them out very quickly, and we want to secure our vehicles so we can GTFO. So we're gonna roll with plus edge, +3. So here we go. All right, we get a weak hit, so that means we get to mark progress. And actually, I've realized that I've made a very big error. So I was actually reading the weak hit, and here's what it says. On a weak hit, you are successful and mark progress, but also encounter a complication or setback. Envision what occurs and fill a clock segment. So that to me says that we don't automatically fill a clock segment just for securing an advantage or facing danger. Because in the strong hit, even the strong hit with a match, it didn't say to fill in a clock. With our secured advantage, it did not say to fill a clock segment. We're going to kind of go ahead and rewind a little bit and say that this is the first progress clock that we've actually filled in. So this actually kind of makes it more manageable, in my opinion, now that we've actually gone ahead. Because I think before, when we did the chase, it was 1 progress for every action that I did. So I'm glad that I caught that on in such a very pivotal moment. So the sandstorm is getting closer and closer. The winds are howling and getting stronger. Okay, so we have a weak hit. So how does that translate to the narrative? So let's say that we were able to take out the just one of the raiders that's trying to secure one of the vehicles, but we have no keys. So let's go ahead and try to secure an advantage. We're going to take a look around with observation. That means with plus wits, and see what we can see. All right, so that is going to be a strong hit for us. So that means we are going to actually take both. We get +2 momentum, and we get to take +1 on the next move that isn't a progress move. So our momentum is actually back to +1. That's actually really good for us in this moment. And so I think that Djon is kind of inspecting this vehicle, and he manages to figure out a way that he might be able to maybe hotwire the vehicle, since this radar didn't have keys or anything like that, or not a very clear ignition sequence. And so we are going to go ahead and roll. I think this is with expertise. Yes, so we're going to face danger, and we're going to be rolling with wits yet again. So let's get our dice and roll again. Oof. Well, actually, that is a weak hit. On the very last die roll, it managed to turn it downwards a little bit. So on a weak hit, we get to roll or fill in another segment. We do get to mark progress once. And so he manages to go ahead and hotwire this, I guess, dune buggy is the term for it. And so he secures Dr. Amit Rao into the vehicle, he secures himself into the vehicle, and away they go. But that is not the end of this challenge, for you see the sandstorm is closing in. And so we need to essentially get out of here. And so we're going to be facing danger. He's driving through a sandstorm, like the full focus of the sandstorm is behind the dune buggy as he's driving across, but there's still going to be high winds that's blowing up the sand in front of him, so it's very hard to see. And so we're going to be rolling with agility, which is plus edge. That is unfortunately going to be a miss for us. You fail, or momentary success is undermined by a dramatic turn of events. And so really what this comes down to is that the dune buggy is going to take some hits here. And so let's see, I believe it is withstand damage when your vehicle faces a damaging situation or environment. Suffer -1 integrity for minor damage, -2 for serious damage, or -3 for major damage. If your integrity is 0, lose momentum equal to any remaining damage. Then if your integrity is 0, or you choose to resist the damage, roll plus integrity. Okay, so we have a vehicle, and I probably should have did this as soon as we had taken off, but we do need to figure out what the integrity of the vehicle is. It serves as the vehicle's HP, if you will. And so the integrity, according to the book on page 65, there are 3 different types. We have heavy, medium, and light. Being a dune buggy, I'm envisioning that this is going to be more on the light side. Like it's just a frame basically on wheels. So we're going for a light integrity. So integrity is 3. Now, since we did take a hit, we need to withstand damage. What kind of damage are we taking? I think it's just going to be -1. This is minor damage. It's sand, basically. We're not losing any momentum because we're not at 0 integrity. And since we're not at 0 integrity, actually, we can choose to resist the damage. So we will roll plus integrity. So this means we're going to effectively do a dice roll. And we're going to add +2 because our integrity right now is 2. And see what we... Alright, so that is a miss. It's worse than you thought. Suffer an additional integrity. Or lose momentum. I think we're going to go ahead and take that integrity loss. So our integrity is at 2. So we are at 3 segments filled here. I believe we are going to try to... I think we're just going to try to do a secure advantage. Again with plus wits because we're trying to look for Summit, which is the nomad camp. And so we're going to go ahead and roll with plus wits. I really hope we don't take a miss on this one. And we do not, thankfully. Our wits is +2. Oh man, that was almost a strong hit. Okay, so we take a weak hit. We are going to take +1 on the next roll. That is not progress, which means we are going to go ahead and face danger. He spots in the distance some structures that are just silhouettes in the sand. So he's going to drive right through there with speed. And so we're going to roll plus edge. Let's hope that he makes it. And he does. So he is driving on and on and on. So we're going to mark progress on a strong hit. And so Djon is just kind of swerving around rocks or other things that you would find in the sand. And I think it's just going to be another just another speed roll to drive right through. So let's see what we get. Man, we are rolling very well. That is going to be another weak hit. So that is more progress. So once again, he is just swerving around. Dr. Amit is just like holed up in his chair, just like trying to keep himself from rolling out of the dune buggy, not saying anything. And so what else? How else can we frame this? I think that's pretty much just it. It's that we're driving. We're trying to avoid things. I don't think we're quite there yet to roll to finish. So let's keep going. That is another success. And this is where things begin to fall apart. So this is where it all comes to an end. So this is actually a miss with a match. So we actually fill 2 segments of the clock. That doesn't really matter because this is just the final one, and we get to pay the price. And I think the price is that the buggy is kind of dead. So let's see if we can finish the scene here. Are we there yet? Don't make me turn this dune buggy around. So we have 7 progress marks. Let's go ahead and roll. That is a strong hit. We achieve our objective just as the dune buggy turns and almost kind of swerves on like 2 wheels and then comes back and then it's dead. It doesn't work anymore. It's just off. And over in the distance, we see that Roy is there inside of his little sand crawler. Come on, let's go. And so Djon and Doctor Amit Rao, they rush on ahead and they get inside of the sand crawler, and we actually manage to escape from the base. So let's talk about progress real quick on some of these moves that we've had, or these quests that we've had. So it's very clear that we escaped from the Raider base. That was actually the progress, the challenge that we just partook. And so we definitely passed that. So I believe that that's going to be part of our main quest, or actually part of our Iron Vow that we have with Roy. And so we are going to go ahead and kind of mark some progress towards that. So really what it comes down to is making sure that when you do things in the narrative, or you gain some sort of mechanical benefits, like, making headway on some of the progress marks, that we're always reflecting back on the different quest moves, like reach a milestone. When you make headway in your quest by doing any of the following: overcoming a critical obstacle, gaining meaningful insight, completing a perilous expedition, acquiring a crucial item or resource, earning vital support, defeating a notable foe, you may mark progress per the rank of the vow. Bringing the doctor back to the base was a formidable task for us. Now, obviously, we found him, we brought him back. I've already had 2 progress marks that I've been tracking when we actually infiltrated the base. That was part of our goal. So I want to take this time to basically go over some of the things that we did, because I wasn't keeping track of it at all, and see what we've done. So we've infiltrated the base, we've gotten into combat, and some of the things I always try to think of failing as failing forward. So when we initiated combat, we did lose, but that brought us to the doctor anyway. So I've marked some progress for that. We've gotten into combat to escape the cell. We've escaped the cell. We've done a little bit of exploration. We got our gear back. We've done a little bit more exploration. We found the airlock that leads outside. We managed to get through the airlock that was kind of rusted shut or whatever. And we managed to find a vehicle. We managed to secure the vehicle, managed to actually start the vehicle, and then we had our scene challenge that way where we got back to our base or back to the Nomads encampment. Okay, so let's talk about fulfilling our vow. The vow is to bring back the Doctor, Dr. Amit Rao. So when you reach the end of your quest, roll the challenge dice and compare your progress. We're at 8 progress right now. So let's go ahead and roll and see what we get. Okay, thank goodness. That is actually a strong hit. So on a strong hit, your vow is fulfilled. Mark a reward on your quest legacy track per the vow's rank. Troublesome is 1 tick, dangerous is 2, formidable is 1 box, extreme is 2 boxes, epic is 3 boxes. Any allies who shared this vow also mark this reward. So we do get 1 box in our quest's legacy track, which I also think that gives us a reward. So I'll kind of go over this in between sessions, and then in the next video, I'll go ahead and go over that whole process since this is something new. In addition to that, since we did rescue the Doctor, who is from our home planet, I think it only makes sense that this is some progress towards our overall goal of reclaiming our planet, Athora. So I think we're kind of slowly making some progress. Remember, that is an epic quest. That's going to take some time. So think of like 1 slash as opposed to 1 entire box. That's how much progress we need to make here. Djon is there with Dr. Amit Rao and Roy Donato. And Roy kind of shakes hands with Hunter, who gives him thanks and praise. And just in time, too, because there's a sandstorm. And this seems to exacerbate some of the sickness that's been going around. We never really touched upon this, but there is some sort of a sickness going on with some of these nomads and the sand that they inhale, which is why everybody wears helmets and masks. We managed to complete our quest, and I think Djon is going to take some time to sojourn, which means to recover. Sojourn is pretty much the preface to some of these other moves. If you spend some time in a community, you could take the sojourn move. And since we are in a sandstorm that could last for days, it would only make sense to go ahead and sojourn and take that upon us. Now there's a couple of things that we need to consider. For example, this might not be the best time to use that because we could get asked to do some other things. And I'm actually thinking about it in a mechanical sense here to start with. In a narrative sense, I've already made up the decision. He's not going to sojourn here. From the narrative perspective, it doesn't really make sense for Djon to let his guard down with these people that he's just helped. I think what's going to happen is that he's going to ask the Doctor to fix him up. So we're going to take a heal action here. So that means from someone not an ally, we're going to roll plus iron. We could mend our own wounds with iron or wits, whichever one's lower, and they're both the same. We could obtain treatment for a companion, which we don't have, but we could provide care to somebody else. So we're going to roll plus iron here. And since we're taking some medical aid from Dr. Amit Rao, and that is actually going to be a weak hit. Wow. 1, 2, 3. On a weak hit, the care is helpful. If you are wounded, clear the impact and take or give plus 2 health Otherwise, take or give +3 health. We don't have any impacts, so that means we're going to go ahead and heal up to full, which is at 5. So on the weak hit, the recovery costs time or resources. I think we're going to go ahead and sacrifice some of our resources to do so. When you sacrifice resources is when you lose or consume resources. Suffer -1 supply for a minor loss, -2 for a serious loss, or -3 for a major loss. If your supply is exhausted, reduced to 0, mark unprepared. When you suffer a loss of resources when unprepared, envision how this causes you hardship and apply the cost to a different suffer move. So while our health went up, our supply has actually gone down by 2, which the way that I play doesn't really matter that much. I don't really think of resources and supply, at least not yet in my experience of playing this game. So I'm perfectly fine with Djon sharing his supplies either with this community or with Dr. Amit Rao to heal up back to full. And so I think that actually covers this adventure, or this quest rather. And so I think in the next part, Djon needs to have a one-on-one talk with Dr. Amit Rao. That is something that definitely needs to happen to figure out kind of what's going on. And then he needs to decide what he's going to do from there. So as Djon is waiting in his little room that he's been provided by Roy, Dr. Amit is bandaging him up and whatnot. He takes a look to Dr. Amit Rao. There's all sorts of things going on in his mind. But the one thing that persists in his mind is what happened to his planet. Why and how did it vanish? And he's hoping that Dr. Amit Rao can answer some of these questions for him.